So this is a good opportunity for you to just kind of say, here I am. Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about a growing concern among small businesses and handcrafters, which of course includes candle makers as well here on this channel. And in relation to what's going on with the economy, the recession, and this isn't just applicable to new businesses and whether or not to start a business at a time like this, but also how currently running businesses could help manage and kind of weather this storm. And this is a topic that's been discussed heavily for months now, pretty much all of 2022. And again, that is the recession that we're in. And how does that affect you as a small business owner or someone that's looking to potentially start a business in this environment? And again, candle makers are no exception to this. So here on this channel, we talk about candle making and we talk about small business and how to merge the two if you're interested. And so I feel like we need to go ahead and address this problem, this question. And I think the best way to start with this is to address the facts first. So let's talk about the actual problem, and that'll help us kind of shed some light on, is it as bad as we think? And my personal take on this situation and what it means for business owners, what it means for candle makers, and some tips on kind of how to weather this, because I think a lot of it is scare tactics. I really do. And I believe a lot of it is just extra stress and anxiety that sometimes we're putting on ourselves, and a lot of it's coming externally as well. But I wanted to give you my take on this and maybe some tips on how to handle this or how to think differently about the situation. Well, first of all, many people are experiencing a drop in sales. You see a lot of people on Etsy talking about a dramatic decrease in sales. Now, I think it's important to know that there's a lot of factors going on there, and there's other reasons that people are experiencing drops in sales on Etsy, and they were happening outside of what's going on with the economy. Etsy has a tendency to change their algorithms quite a bit and how they promote different shops and different products and whether ads work and don't work. And sometimes that's just a constant battle with Etsy. You can have a great year or a great month followed by a bad one. And so there were people struggling with changes going on with Etsy already, and it had nothing to do with the economy. So I don't want to jump to conclusions and assume that every single shop that's struggling recently on Etsy has anything to do with what's going on with the economy. There are several reasons there could be struggles. But outside of that, generally speaking, sales are down, I would say a little bit more than normal for sure, but it's going to vary a huge range across different people. I know a lot of people that are struggling with some sales, and I know plenty that are not struggling at all, and some that continue to just kind of grow. Now, my business personally has been just fine. It's continued its normal trajectory. It hasn't really been hit much. Now, things have changed, and I've had to adapt with those changes a little bit. But I'm also not insensitive to what's going on, because I'm fully aware that it is affecting some people, or it's affecting people differently, I should say. But I will certainly agree that it is more challenging, a little rougher than it was even a year ago. Now, fact number 2 is probably the most frustrating, I think, for a lot of us, and that is that costs are higher, and they've continued to go up. Wax prices have grown just significantly over the past year, 2 years, and they just keep going up and up and up. Fragrance oils, a little bit, but not nearly at the rate that waxes are. Vessels, mostly because of shipping prices, but in short, most supplies have seen an increase in cost. That's really tough for those of us that purchase materials to make a final product, which of course all of that affects our pricing and our profit. And so that certainly has been the biggest challenge for candle makers, but a lot of industries over the past couple of years. And then lastly, when we are in a tough economic time or a recession or even a perceived economic downfall, that people become a lot more cautious with their spending, cautious with their money, and they're trying to be more deliberate and diligent about what they're actually going to use their excess money on. We saw this at the beginning of the pandemic. Everyone is very concerned about what's going to happen, so everyone really, really tightened down. Savings rates went through the roof, and then eventually, not only did things go back to normal, but spending actually jumped through the roof. But anyways, those 3 things really cover and encapsulate the major concerns and facts of what's going on right now. Sales are down for a lot of people. Costs are definitely up for pretty much everyone, and that consumers are being more cautious about their spending. So where does that leave you as a candle maker, and especially as a candle maker who's interested in starting a business or already running one? And not just candle making, any business. If you're here making soaps or really any kind of small business, this is going to probably apply to you. Well, firstly, we have to recognize that in all likelihood, many people believe, most economists believe, that we've kind of seen the worst of it. They officially announced a recession a couple weeks ago, but the truth is that's after the problem has already happened. So they announced a recession based off of past economic results and numbers. And so that we've actually been in a recession since the beginning of 2022, this entire year. And actually this past month was the first month that the inflation rate actually dropped. So it had been going up and up and up. And this was the first month where it actually started to. Now we are still seeing some increases in certain categories of food, for example, but gas prices are starting to come back down. That is great for shipping, obviously. But it has been tough, and it's not going to really necessarily just get easier overnight. But the trajectory, at least recently, has been an improvement or, compared to what it was the first 6-7 months of the year. But beyond recognizing that, I want to touch on, 6 talking points, 6 things that I feel like everyone should be thinking about or potentially looking at a little differently when it comes to this situation. And the first is understanding that people spending less money by going out and doing things because they're being more cautious with their spending is actually not so bad for people who use home-based products. Why? Because if people are spending less time going out and doing things, they tend to spend more time at home. Again, just like the pandemic. And when people are spending more time in their house, they're going to spend more money on things inside their house. That can be TV and movies and doing things online. That can be extra snacks and groceries, although food is the most expensive right now. But that also includes things like burning candles. You like the aesthetics, you want your house to smell nice. Again, we've seen this in the past. So consumers spending more time at home and unwilling to spend their disposable income on other things outside the home can actually sometimes help handcrafters. I would rather be involved in something like that than I would the travel industry right now, for example. Number 2, this one I am pretty passionate about, and there's a couple reasons why. And that is that you want to be there before the rebound. And what I mean by that is, in every example in history, after the economy has a recession, it rebounds with some sort of boom. Sometimes it's small and steady, sometimes it's a quick rebound. And it's important to get in on the bottom part of that, and so you can catch the entire wave up. Right, this is very common in the stock market as well. In fact, you've probably heard cliche thrown around that most people become wealthy during recessions. And that is because they're taking advantage of a situation that they know is going to get better. And they're using leverage to make that situation better for them. How does that apply to you as a small business owner and a candle maker? If you can get in on the ground level, then it's easier to grow and ride the wave back up. And I can even give you an example of if something I could have done sooner, and that is in relation to this YouTube channel. So I had just always punted the idea of doing this YouTube channel down the road for quite some time. A little quick backstory on this. I've been helping candle makers for a long time, several years, but I was doing it in very ineffective ways. It was through kind of like email and little groups here and there and little consultations. And it was just not a very efficient way to do it. And so people had started saying, you probably should be on YouTube and doing some other things as well. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. And I just never got around to doing it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I kind of missed that first big wave of growth with the YouTube channel. For example, there were a few channels that started like in the middle of the pandemic or the early stages or right before the pandemic. And those channels experienced significant growth because there was a lot more people jumping on YouTube, watching videos, trying to learn how to do new things, new crafts. In fact, a lot of you watching this may have started candle making because of the pandemic. And so I had kind of missed that because I joined the party a little late. I didn't really start my channel till more the tail end of the pandemic. And then actually I started it, but then really only posted like 1 or 2 videos. And then I ended up moving. And so I didn't do another thing for about 6 more months. And so I missed a huge growth opportunity there, a very significant one. Now, don't get me wrong. This channel is doing great. It's doing better than I would have thought it was going to be, particularly because I missed that major wave where everyone was growing on YouTube very quickly. I really just missed that. And so here I am. Starting a little late on that. And it's easy now to look back and say, man, this channel could probably have twice as many subscribers and I could be helping twice as many people if I would have started even just 6 months earlier. But it is an important lesson to recognize when there's an opportunity and to take advantage of that opportunity. And opportunities where the economy is struggling and there's a recession or other things going on that seem bad, we always need to remember that when things seem bad, that usually means there's an opportunity. So the next few of these points are going to talk about this opportunity and what that means for you and how you can use it. And so the third point here is that in a situation like we're in now, competition's actually lower. And I think it's fairly obvious why. Many people are backing out. Some businesses are kind of retracting and slowing down. And because there's a higher barrier to entry into the industry right now, a lot of businesses or candle makers that wanted to start are now hesitant about doing so. And so they're not starting, they're delaying starting. So new businesses are slowing down and the current ones are slowing down as well. And that creates less competition than there normally is. When there's less competition, it's easier for you to gain some traction. So this is a good opportunity for you to just kind of say, here I am. It can be easier to get noticed on social media. Your ads, if you run any ads, can be more effective and cost you less because, again, there's less competition. So there's definitely ways to leverage the situation in terms of less competition and use that to your advantage. Now, the next one I was going to say, I'm actually going to bump to the end. It's my favorite one. So we're going to skip that out. I'm going to rearrange the order here. And so the next one we're going to talk about is related to the cost of supplies and materials. So I mentioned earlier that supply costs are up. We all know that. And hopefully they start to taper off eventually here. It's been kind of ridiculous for a couple of years. Now, with that being said, a lot of the costs are also related to shipping. First, to purchasing the materials, and then the cost to actually receive them, have them delivered to us has been high as well. Fortunately, the backlogs at the ports and the bays have started to ease up over the past year. And I talked about this a little bit after I got back from the World Candle Congress earlier this year in New Orleans. I did a video on that. If you haven't checked that out, I'll link that as well. And part of what we talked about there is some easing at the ports, and it's projected just to continue to get better. That means more supplies coming in, which means hopefully sooner than later, we do start seeing costs kind of taper off and potentially even start returning back to normal. But not only that, the shipping rates should start to taper off and drop as well. In fact, I've already seen this in the USPS pricing, seen some improvements on the shipping rates. And then next, number 5, I believe, is try not to worry so much about external factors that you can't control. You can't control the economy and if it's in a recession or how quickly it's going to get out of recession. You can't do that as an individual. And so there's no point in really worrying about it. It's good to recognize it because you need to learn how to adjust and fight your way through it. But instead of fearing it, just learn how to react to it. Because when it comes to business, if you're afraid of what a bad economy means for you, then I wouldn't go into business because that is going to be something you encounter more than once as a business owner. Many things, external factors are going to take place and happen that can impact your business. And it shouldn't make you just freak out and want to close shop and move on. More importantly, it's better to learn how to react and adapt in those situations. All businesses that survive for years and decades and centuries even, they've learned to adapt to these situations. This is not the first time we've had a recession, and all the businesses that have lasted a long time just make it through them. They know how to deal with it. They've learned to adjust and how to react. So try not to fear external factors, just learn to recognize them and know that that means you might need to adjust. Because like I said, this won't be the last time we go through rough economic patches. But again, successful businesses learn to fight through them, and they usually come out better on the other side. Which leads me to number 6, my final perception about this situation. One of the reasons I got involved in business and candle making is I like a good challenge. And since most of you are candle makers, you probably know exactly what I mean. Every one of us realized candle making was harder than we thought it would be. And I personally find that intriguing. Business is about challenges and growth and learning to overcome things and adapt and change and improve. And that's how my brain works. I like a good challenge. And running or starting a business in a tough economic landscape provides a unique challenge. And the thing about challenges and obstacles is they make you better at whatever you're doing. When you're an athlete and you practice against better competition, it makes you better. When you're a candle maker and you start experimenting with new materials or tougher materials and you run into problems and you learn to overcome those problems, it makes you a better candle maker. And when you're a business owner and you have to learn how to fight through a recession or rough economic times, it makes you a better business owner and you come out on the other side even better. And the reason is because you learn new skill sets that you didn't know you had before or that you needed before, and it helps you improve on your current ones. You learn to get creative with budgets. You learn to get creative with your products, coming up with alternative products. You learn new pricing strategies. You learn alternative ways and creative ways to promote your products and how to seek out additional streams of revenue. If you start a business and from day one, everything is just flourishing, yeah, that feels great at the time. But that is really, really dangerous. A lot of businesses start during economic booms, and then when things start tapering off and slowing down, they don't know how to handle that. They've only been used to success, and when they have challenges come their way, they don't know how to deal with them, and they end up falling apart. Believe it or not, I can actually use YouTube here again as another example. Over the past couple years during the pandemic, a lot of new channels had started. I'm not just talking about candle making channels, I'm talking about in YouTube in general. The amount of new YouTube channels that started during the pandemic and the amount of viewers on the platform just was so crazy during the pandemic. And a lot of channels instantly hit YouTube, instantly grew, had lots of views and great success. And then lately, things have just slowed down on YouTube. And over the past 6 months, things have really started to kind of go back to what they were before. And all those channels that started then and were seeing early success and growth are now struggling to get anywhere near what they were getting before. And they don't know how to handle that situation. It seemed easy before. And again, that happens with business and everything else. So starting during times where everything is going great is actually really misleading. It can actually be much better for businesses to go through tough times early on or start during tough times, because then those businesses know how to succeed when it's tough. So instead of being kind of spoiled by the riches in the beginning, you learn how to make your business work and continue to grow when everyone else is on the decline. And that is a very, very powerful skill set for a business owner, because when things are going well, it's going well for everyone. But when things start going south, you want to be among the businesses that know how to fight through it and how to survive that and get through it and be better once you do. So yes, can it be tougher to start a business when things are kind of tight? Yes, it absolutely can be, but there are many advantages to doing so. It forces you to become better at planning, better at coming up with a strategy, better at really everything, better at everything about your business. And really, if you can do that, you'll come out so much better on the other side for it. So I know most of the hot takes right now about the economy, it's all doom and gloom. And everyone's more like, issuing signs of warning and concern, and everyone be really, really careful. And you want to be responsible. You want to be smart. You don't want to be just throwing money around all over the place. You don't want to just go stock up on stuff you don't need or anything like that. I'm not suggesting you be reckless at all. I mean, I've changed how I order a lot of my materials as well. Controlling your inventory is important. But my point is to look at this as an opportunity. So sure, there are some steps to climb, some obstacles, some work you're going to have to do to get to the top, but it's not a wall. It's not just stopping you. Think about your plan, think about your strategy. Are there any alternatives to your products that you can do? Can you change some pricing? Can you offer some promotions? Can you try some new things? Some new strategies on social media, running some ads if you've never done that before, adjusting your pricing. Take this time to improve your product photography, work on your website. There's a lot of things you can be doing to improve your business to help you stand out right now. Look more in your local community for small shops that might be interested in working with you. This is a chance for you to find other revenue streams. Instead of having all your eggs in one basket and relying only on your website or only on Etsy, only on doing craft shows, this is a chance for you to explore other avenues, other ways to build your business up. For those of you who've been around this channel for a while and seen most of my videos, we talk about the technical aspect of how to make candles. And I talk about some things about how to run a business, some tips and tricks to doing that, some tools that I use, and so on. But I also try to offer some inspiration and perspective to situations. I'm not a fan of fluff, especially when I think it's just rhetorical nonsense where people are just saying things to hear themselves talk or just saying things to get people engaged, but they don't really have any backing or anything. But I also don't like doom and gloom. And so when there's a chance to provide some inspiration and some motivation and a different, more positive perspective on a situation, then I'm going to share that with you. And I think this is definitely one of those situations because a lot of people are running scared right now. And while you should be cautious and responsible, I don't think that that should stop you from pursuing what you want to do. So take some time and think about the things that we talked about in today's video. Where do you see yourself right now? What have been your thoughts about running or starting your business at this time, and things that might concern you? And if I didn't touch on some of those, go ahead and mention them in the comment section below. But I hope today helped you think about things a little bit differently and see the situation a little bit differently, because challenges create opportunities. And I think this is a time where you can leverage your skills or new skills to improve your business, fight through tougher times, and come out even better and stronger on the other side. Thank you all for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!